Welcome to the Ejectables, with a show where movie enthusiasts Bill, Ian, and Joe join forces with a rotating weekly guest to defend films that the critics and our audiences have left behind. Each episode, our panel dives into a movie they believe has been unfairly panned or unjustly considered a flop. From cult classics to hidden gems, watch as we make the case and challenge the conventional wisdom on what makes a movie worth watching. Tonight's guest, we have Jeff here. Welcome, Jeff.
Great
nice
to be here.
See you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming,
joining
Jeff.
the Ejectables.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. All
So
right.
you're a big film lover, Jeff. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself and what film you're defending tonight?
Oh, tonight, nobody will care about me after I say the film. The film I'm going to be defending is Memoirs of an Invisible Man. John Carpenter. Hey, you did your homework. John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Actually, doesn't say John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man, but he did direct it.
He did
Starring Chevy Chase and the beautiful Daryl Hannah.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's
Yes.
start here, Jeff. Why this film? What do you like about it? What could you possibly like about it? I guess I should ask.
Well, first, okay, you got to be a bit of a Chevy Chase fan in the 80s to understand the smug, smarmy, why he was so funny and such a great leading man. Basically, the young people watch Ryan Reynolds. He stole a shtick, kept his body in good condition, and was nicer to the crew, I guess. But basically, that's who Chevy was. And it's one of those John Carpenter movies that nobody seems to like. John Carpenter seems to hate it. Working with Chevy Chase is impossible.
Yeah.
It went through a ton of rewrites and directors, and the typical thing is I can't work with this asshole. And so tonally, it is kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It also just for me, Chevy had a lot of great stuff like Fletch. He would hit it and things. And then he had a huge hit with Christmas Vacation. And that is just so lackluster to me. I mean, when his best film is National Lampoon's Vacation and Christmas Vacation, it was a huge thing. People still talk about it. But actually, Memoirs came after it, bombed, and then everybody hated it. And then he was finished, basically, as the leading man.
How did he? So my first question with this was he leveraging so much power that this movie got made? Because I'm wondering how it got made. Was it like a vehicle for Chevy Chase? Was he like behind it and he wanted it produced?
Yeah. Unfortunately for everybody else involved, it was Chevy's project.
So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
If a director came on or a writer came on and Chevy didn't approve or was having a bad day, it got shit canned. So they got John Carpenter to agree to direct. And in the by the way, first of all, there's not one boring moment in this film. The special effects still look absolutely incredible, and in my opinion, beats the hell out of so much CGI that you see. There you go.
Serious?
Well, what's great about What's great about this shot is this is the one brief homage to the original to Claude Rains, because usually he's not rap like that, but he's doing kind of the Claude Rains thing, in a bit of an homage to that. I also like that it's not, this is it was a Chevy Chase vehicle when he started to think he was going to become a bit more serious. So he didn't want to be too shticky. He didn't want to look up women's dresses or, check out boobs or do anything that, you think an invisible, or he didn't go insane. Well, although he starts that way, it's more he's very lonely. He starts as a lonely guy. He is a lonely guy. You kind of feel for him. His life is good, but got worse. And not until he turned invisible did his life. Well, I don't want to spoil the ending.
Well, I think that we have a lot of spoilers here.
For those, I'm spoiling the shit out of this movie.
It's already been spoiled because it was made.
Hey!
No,
but here's another thing, John. So this is interesting. So you got a lot of cool elements coming at you all at once, and it's kind of like such a unique movie in that this couldn't have been cooked up in a lab like this, because you have John Carpenter coming in, and even if John Carpenter is only directing, he's got a flavor to him. You know, you tonally, you know, it's John doing it.
Yeah.
It's not his script, and it's not even his score. Right, the score has an actual gorgeous sweeping score by Shirley.
It's one of the best scores in film history.
Beautiful, and by the way, Shirley Walker is like one of the first
female composers ever.
Yeah, actually, could you believe it? It took till '92 to have like a lead, basically a lead composer.
I would put that score against anything John Williams did. That score is one of the best scores in film history. Yeah.
When I watch these, I take some notes, you know, so I remember for this.
Yeah.
And I got to say, this movie doesn't have a lot of big action scenes. You said it wasn't boring. And I wrote down some notes.
Yes.
And I wrote halfway through my notes, it says, it's boring and forgettable. And then it gets down further on my notes. It's like, oh my God, it's really boring. But instead of action, they show helicopters fly over and there's big music. So I did notice the music.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, there's not huge action pieces. It is more of just
void.
A few, like, you know, he doesn't jump off any water. Yeah, you're right. It's a bit.
Chewing gum's cool.
The effects are incredible. I'm sorry. There's like she puts makeup on his face in one of the scenes, Daryl Hannah, to see him, and then you not only see his face kind of floating there and talking, and it's obviously Chevy Chase, but the camera turns and you can see from behind.
Why did we see his teeth though? Did he put in dentures? Why could we see his teeth?
I think that was okay. His teeth were super white, so I assume they painted them for the scene.
Okay, I didn't remember.
And there is a scene where he wipes his mouth in the restaurant.
Yeah,
and quickly has to, or she has to dab it. But listen, Chevy does his thing. He's great. He plays like a bit of a womanizer, the typical Fletch-like character, and hungover, walks into a glass door. I mean, does this little Chevy stuff that's still so good, but all the goofy stuff is really left for other people, like the guy who is the reason the whole building blows up. But then, you know, it's just really well done, and Chevy gives a great performance.
He could have done more dramatic stuff. He was that good.
I thought so.
I thought he was so, and no offense to you, I found him so boring and a void in this. I think all he really normally has is his comedy and his charm, which he just left aside for this. And I think that's why I was so bored. And Carpenter also left all of his best tools to the side because he's great at making thrillers and stuff. And I wouldn't say this is Carpenter's worst.
Beautifully shot, dude. Those lens flares. J.J. Abrams is so jealous of those lens flares. It's absolutely gorgeous.
The best part was when the cat and the dog were watching him play tennis. Favorite part of the movie.
That was it.
That was it.
Oh boy.
They're like,
well, that's why it has this Rotten Tomato score. It's very unique. It's got a John Carpenter flavor. It's got Chevy Chase being. I still think he's being Chevy. He's just not like really being swarmy. Swarmy. Which is it?
Swarmy.
He's just being. He's more vulnerable in this than he is in anything else.
Fair enough. My macro issue with the film, Jeff, was it was very, I thought, disorganized. Like the structure was like, why are we speeding up here? Like I didn't think it was boring, unlike Ian. I thought it was like a too action-packed. Like in the half-hour mark, we're dealing with our protagonist, and I'm like, this is too soon. The pacing is just so. I felt it was. It was almost like an antagonistic pacing. Like, I don't think that the pacing was very good for the viewer because it just did not seem to follow the standard, like leading you up to these action sequences. I feel like he shouldn't have been going. There shouldn't have been a chase scene so soon in the film. It just seemed very disjointed and very disorganized and not easy for the viewer to sort of sit back and take it in. It was almost like it was all these different scenes were Frankenstein together with no care at all, which makes sense if it's Chevy Chase because he's a selfish bastard. That it was like all over the place. It was like completely, it was completely rude to the viewer because it was hard for us to like keep track and keep our breath. Do you know what I'm saying? Like with normal movies that are well done, it starts slow. There leads up. We get to know the characters, and then we have chase scenes, etc. So how can you defend the pacing and the disorganization of the film?
Well, the first, I'll tell you this. Coming to think of it, I can't think of a wasted scene in the opening. It opens, I mean, even over the credits, they're helicopter, you don't know what's going on. Something's up, and suddenly you hear Chevy Chase's voice, bodiless voice, disembodied voice, and he's recording himself, and then he's popping bubble gum, as you say, and you're like, oh, something's going on. And then we immediately go back to, I think it's him being a bit of a womanizer, and he's not, he's a slacker at work, but he bullshits his way, typical Chevy stuff in a certain
he was already invisible.
Exactly, right? He's a single guy with no family, no anything.
Yeah.
And then he does meet Daryl Hannah. That happens. The romance happens pretty quickly. Hooks up with Daryl Hannah, which was the style at the time, I guess, in '92. Oh yeah, and you look fantastic.
And you're saying these special effects are good? You're defending these special effects.
They were good at the time. They were.
Joe, those are good special effects. Come on, man.
They look great.
I disagree.
All right, well,
I disagree.
Look at that. That is the.
She's beautiful though. She's just delightful. She made this tolerable because she's just so beautiful. How old was she in this flick? What year was
30. It? She was like 30.
She was really great.
She's beautiful, yeah.
Because this was quite a few years after Splash, which was, she
had matured into this perfect and believable. So anyway, what else? I mean, right off, it starts ripping along, and then meets her at the country club. We see that he's a slacker at work. Cut to hooking up with Daryl Hannah, and then really it's just cuts right to the next morning. Have been hungover because he hung out with Daryl Hannah, hungover, and then boom, by like page 16, he's invisible. So to me, that's good. It's like page 17 shit, The building disappears, like it's a 17-minute mark, and it's just like he's just discovering. I mean, in what Chevy Chase movie does he have any self-reflection? And this one actually has it. He's like, what's going on with me? What am I doing? He's realizing through the movie that he was invisible. Then he finds Daryl Hannah and then tries that. I mean, she's gone from the movie for a large part of the time. I can imagine Joe or Ian, you get, oh, Jesus Christ, how much longer am I going to watch Clark Griswold mug his way through this shit? But to me, it's just enchanting and fun. And the only problem with the movie, the only problem is he doesn't have like a strong goal to cure himself. Although none of the Invisible Man movies really have it's either you blow up or you kill yourself or you go crazy or something happens. But it doesn't. It's like. The goal is when the goal of the main character is just to avoid somebody. He's not trying to prove somebody is the murderer while he's being chased,
right?
And he's not trying to find the cure necessarily. He does. Sorry, another spoiler. He does, and then the doctor's killed. Spoiler. This is great film. What are you talking about? Like these are all great hooks. And speaking of hooks, the Beatles producer George Martin. His son, I forget his son's name. He plays this wonderful guy who's a real womanizer who tries to take advantage of Daryl Hannah, and Chevy, being invisible, rips her off him. So that guy is George Martin's son.
No way.
Oh, wow.
He nailed it in the
He's so broad. Compared to everyone else, he was just so broad. Do the voice again, because you actually sound like it.
It was like I can't do that. But it was like, what is getting late in the evening? Yeah, he was very. Go back and shout. He was great and perfect. You'd be like, well, he didn't need to do this movie. He's not really an actor. Much of
I found it so weird and broad, and just compared to everything else, I'm like, this doesn't fit. I didn't think he was bad, but didn't fit the rest of the film. Though I did prefer the cat and dogs. It needed more cats and dogs watching him do things.
Sorry, but go ahead, Bill.
It originally was a comedy. Ivan Reitman was set to direct it. William Goldman was writing it. And then after dealing with Chevy Chase, William Goldman said, I'm too old and too rich to deal with this type of bullshit, and he left. And then Chevy wanted to do it as a prestige picture, make it more serious, so he hired Dana Olson and Robert Collector. And Carpenter, like Chevy would quit, would take off his special effects makeup, and they would have to reshoot it halfway through the day. And when Carpenter got so mad, he broke his clipboard in half during the shoot.
So yeah, okay. Chevy is notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
And this was, I'd say, also another important part is this is the last film in which that shit was worth it. Right.
Yeah.
Like we were talking, I mean, briefly off. We were talking about Michael Ritchie, right? Michael Ritchie directed Fletch and whatever. He says he loved working with Michael Ritchie. Well, why? Because Michael Ritchie just let him do his thing, you know, put the camera and let him do his thing. So of course he loved working with Michael Ritchie. But yeah, I don't know why Chevy Chase would choose John Carpenter. When you hire somebody with a singular vision, then follow that vision. You know what I mean? That's the odd thing, but Chevy is such an odd character, but he's so fucking funny in the 80s that I will consider 92 just, that's it.
And Richard Donner flirted with directing it as well.
Oh, wow.
You know, but it was very special effects heavy, so I think he was intimidated by it. But I'm with Jeff. To me, it's an A movie. The score alone is one of the best scores in film history. I think it's a perfect movie. It's a famous book. It was like the first time it's like, oh, let's do a like Real Invisible Man. You know, they talked about digestion and all that stuff. I'm glad they kept in there. I'm with you. To me, it doesn't need defending. It's awesome.
There we go.
So the logic, though, so clear this up for me. Do you remember the scene where he's in these, I think they're like red corduroy pants, and he can actually be seen when he's running away from, I'm guessing, like one of the people that are chasing him, and the guy can actually see him.
In the park?
Yes. So he's wearing these like red corduroys, and then he's able to be seen. But throughout the whole film, he's in a suit. But why can't we see him in the suit if we can see him in his clothes? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
because
yeah.
how is that?
No.
Became invisible.
He wasn't wearing the clothes that he wore the day of the becoming invisible. So he does a great bit. He does a great Chevy bit where he's trying to find his jacket. I think they are hunting.
That was kind of funny, and
he's desperately doing his thing, and it's brilliant. It's like watching Jerry Lewis at the top of his game.
Okay, and the cats and dogs are the best part.
What about you? Didn't like Sam Neill? Ian, you didn't like Sam Neill? Sam Neill was amazing in it.
He was good.
Sam Neill was
better in The Omen 3, The Final Conflict.
But I think if anything, it's a little more odd to see Michael McKean. So I feel like they should not. I mean, I love Michael McKean, but I feel like they should not
miscast.
Hire a non-comic, so you have at least just one comic not being comical as opposed to two.
You could have taken Chevy Chase's part, and it would have been better. Yes. I saw this movie when it came out, and I couldn't remember a thing about it, so I had to rewatch it. And I've seen it 2 days ago. I saw it 2 days ago, and I don't remember a thing about it.
Wow.
No offense to you.
Truly an invisible movie.
Yeah.
Well, I highly recommend it. Make your own decision. You'll see stuff you love. And by the way, when he's running through the park, Joe, when you're talking about that, he's running through the park. Yeah. And they're grabbing him, and he's ripping his clothes off while running. How can you tell me that doesn't look good? That scene looked incredible to me. It still does.
I thought it was good, but I didn't understand with the outfit. I'm realizing now that because he was in that suit when he became invisible, that suit was also invisible, which I missed. I loved the secretary. I loved her. I thought she was great.
Oh, come on, man.
I thought she was really good. She was one of my favorite parts. I thought she was very, very smart and funny. I also was trying to desperately grasping for some kind of like just real life thing. And he did say at one point, as a child, he dreamt about being invisible, and how he does learn that, it's not all it's cracked up to be for all of these reasons. There's a point in which Daryl Hannah actually espouses upon those reasons why it's not cool to be invisible. But it is kind of interesting because we all, I think, have thought of that, like, oh, I wish I was invisible, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting that he was speaking on that, or they spoke about that in the film.
Huge kudos to, you have Chevy Chase, and you're not doing any of the, pervy stuff. You're not doing anything that you would think someone would do in the first minute, then get bored of it probably, you know. But like what's that real piece of shit? Hollow Man, right? So like he's turns into a bad guy. The original Invisible Man. I mean, the book, the H.G. Wells book. You know, he goes mad. So this was nice to see that he was like a smarmy guy, but I really should have looked up that word before we started. But he just plays it very believably, and I feel for him in this movie. I don't get, you know.
Some really good lines. He says, I don't have time. I want my molecules back.
I want my molecules back. I love that.
That was cute.
I don't know why that's just so funny. I want my molecules back.
Yeah.
You know what else is a great bit? When he's walking and he's just despondent. He's walking the streets and then just some guy steals a woman's. It's well directed. It's a great shot.
I love that.
Steals a woman's purse. Some guy, he doesn't even look up. He just grabs the purse out of her hand, walks up to her and hands it back in. And she's like,
that was cool. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, it was, from my perspective, it was awful, but it was cute too. There were definitely cute moments, and like I said, before we started, I would never have seen this film, but I am glad that I did. I think it was just very interesting.
See another movie like it. You know, we won't hear a score like that on a John Carpenter film, or John Carpenter directing a Chevy Chase, or having so many hands in the pot. I mean, with the script. And it's just so many weird elements that come together that for a Chevy Chase fan like me, seeing it directed by John Landis is one thing. Okay, great, you know. But then to see Chevy directed by John Carpenter, like he'll never work with someone. He never did work with anybody quite like that. I mean, you know, everybody kind of had a big heart and had a broader sense, like Harold Ramis type, you know. Mm-hmm. And he does a John Carpenter film, and even if it's not a John Carpenter film, it totally smells like John Carpenter all over the place. I mean, it feels like it, tastes like it, and the special effects are incredible. And Chevy is one of his best performances, probably outside of just obviously him playing Clark Griswold for the first time or something.
You're right. It does kind of feel like Escape from L.A. a little bit for a John Carpenter movie. It has,
yeah. I mean, but it never goes over the top. They never ride the skateboards with, what was that? Not Fonda. What was, who was he?
That was Peter Fonda.
Peter Fonda, yeah.
I mean, he's making fun of you, Jeff.
No, I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of John Carpenter in the 90s.
So, you don't like Carpenter? I thought we all like Carpenter.
I loved him through the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it all stops in 92 for all these guys, huh?
I think it's one of the most beautifully shot movies. William Fraker did an amazing job. Shout out to Patricia Heaton in it. You know, she's one. Yeah.
Patricia Heaton plays Michael McKean's wife in that picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, it must have been hell to make, and it is absolutely worth seeing. I guess you can call it a cult film, even if it's just a cult of me. It's
feel like
so unique in the Chevy and Carpenter catalog, and just in film in general. And it's a special effects movie, and it's an Invisible Man movie, which they're always interesting because it's very difficult to get right. You could argue they didn't. You obviously have argued they didn't here, but I just think it's a great, charming little movie. I'm so glad they made it. So glad he made it. And if that was the way Chevy went out as a leading man, then I'll take it.
Why not?
Awesome.
Yeah, well, we'll have to. Anybody who wants to watch The Invisible Man, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, we certainly will. And Jeff, thank you. I'm going to make sure that I remember that. You know, it might not be my flick, but I am glad that I saw it. So thanks for introducing the film to me.
Thank you.
Ian, what do you have for us tonight?
Oh, I can't. This can be hard. Okay, so I will admit. Okay, I have Lost World, Jurassic Park. So that's Jurassic Park 2. Now, I will admit, when I saw this film at the theater initially, I was disappointed by it, as were many people. Mm-hmm. And I understand now that's because the trailer suggested that it takes place on the continental U.S., which eventually in the film it does, but that's 3/4 of the way in. So that's why I was disappointed. Then I decided to rewatch with my kids a couple of years ago. And okay, so this movie, it takes place on Island B, or Site B, which is where they bred the dinosaurs before they brought them to the island that we know from Jurassic Park 1.
Mhm.
And so after the disaster that happened in Jurassic Park 1 and, all the mayhem and stuff, they just let Site B be Site B. And the dinosaurs kind of lived off freely on that island, which is like 100 miles away from the Jurassic Park island. And so here we go 4 or 5 years into the future, not time travel, but it's been a few years since the last movie. And Dr. Hammond, Richard Attenborough, wants to get a crew together of a few scientists and stuff to go to this Site B and take photographs and kind of document the different dinosaurs that are thriving on the island.
Mhm.
But and this little group is led by Jeff Goldblum from the original film, who plays Ian Malcolm. And I think he, as a lead, is great. We've seen him obviously in The Fly and other films as the lead, but his quippy way of speaking and his humor, I think, shines here. So he and Julianne Moore and his daughter stows away along with them to this Site B, and mayhem starts to happen. But Arliss Howard, who is Dr. Hammond's nephew, has other plans. He too goes to Site B and brings like an army of victims to the island to kidnap some dinosaurs and bring them back to the States, where they're going to start a new Jurassic Park in San Diego, which is kind of cool. So they have a whole bunch of victims that they brought to the island now. First one just had a couple of kids, and it was kind of schmaltzy, and it was like, oh, there's sweet dinosaurs here. This one is all about vicious dinosaurs. This is a monster movie. I'd say it's Spielberg's first monster movie since Jaws. All-out monster movie. The movie starts with a little girl being, I imagine when they filmed it, they're like, oh, we killed a little girl. But then in lines later, they're oh, she survived. The little girl gets attacked by dinosaurs and the mother screams. And then we cut to Jeff Goldblum talking, whatever. And later on in the film, when they're on the continental U.S., I'm not going to tell you the whole movie, but the dinosaurs eat a dog, a nice little family dog. It goes to hide in the doghouse.
Remember that doghouse hanging? Yeah.
The little girl almost dies. A dog gets eaten. It's a monster movie.
What about Eddie Carr?
What's that?
Eddie Carr got killed. That's like the big thing that everybody was upset about. Eddie Carr. I should know. Eddie Carr. He that's what was upsetting to a lot of people in the flick. Apparently,
Who was Eddie Carr?
Yeah, who's Eddie Carr?
Eddie Carr.
I was gonna. Did you ever see that movie Baby with William Catt?
I love that at the time. Yes,
Baby. Yeah, that movie's better than Lost World.
No way. No, this is like a good. I would say this is Spielberg's. Like in retrospect, I think it's better to take it from now, because if you go back, it is the last of Spielberg's 80s style action adventure films, which I would say only Tintin after this was kind of like that, that was animated, so it doesn't count.
What's the plot twist that someone works for PETA or something like that?
I don't remember. It doesn't matter. It's just a great, fun, no holds barred.
Everyone laughed in the theater.
Eddie Carr is the supporting protagonist. He's the supporting protagonist, Eddie Carr. And he was played by Richard Schiff.
Chef.
Oh, Chef. Oh, okay. Right. Now I know you're talking about.
That's where he gets stomped on. Okay. He gets ripped in half. I forget.
Yeah, people are upset about that.
There's two decent scenes in the movie. Honestly, there's one decent scene in the entire. I mean, honestly, before Crystal Skull came out, it was the worst Spielberg sequel ever. I mean, I couldn't believe that this. Anyway, this was Schindler's List Spielberg, the same guy. But anyway, the scene with there's one scene I know what you're talking about where, I know what you're talking about. But basically, he's trying to reel in the guy. They're hanging off the cliff.
Yeah.
They save the baby dinosaur, and then now the mother's pissed and they ram the RV off the cliff.
And there's 2 dinos.
That's tension. Yeah, 2 dinos. Okay, 2 mothers. How 2024?
Right?
But yes, right was very very ahead of its time. But I thought that, and then of course the only other thing. But by then I was so checked out. I was like just seeing the 76 ball roll down Burbank. But you kind of have to know that's so really good. Burbank. When they had to have closed down Burbank. What's that street on Burbank? You know what I'm talking about?
Glen Oaks.
Yeah, you know, they obviously closed the street. That's 76.
Olive.
You know exactly. if you rewatch the movie, it's Burbank, where the
Yeah.
T-Rex is going crazy, but then what does he do? He causes some shit. He bumps into a bus.
I wish there was more of the stuff in, LA or wherever in San Diego, because I was disappointed by that. But I think that this is just a fun action movie. There's a scene where they're going through this long grass. And they talk about the raptors could be around. And then you start seeing a line in the long grass coming towards the soldiers. You don't see what the line is. And then suddenly a soldier will disappear. And it's like a good Jaws type moment. I'm not saying this is Jaws. I know this is not brilliant. It's better than The Terminal and Fablemans, though. I will say that.
And I'm not saying much.
No. But I like The Terminal more than most people.
Yeah, the first two acts of The Terminal are great. And then they had to reshoot it.
Well, I like The Terminal. As a Jew, I think it's okay to say I hated The Fablemans just because it was boring. I didn't think Spielberg needed to tell his own story.
So artificial, yeah.
Right.
But okay.
Oh yeah.
Lost World again. It's a lot of fun if you don't overthink it. The gymnastics scene is horrible. If I can blank that out, the rest of the movie is really fun.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, maybe we'll give it a whirl.
Give it a whirl.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bill, what do you have for us?
So my pick is The Survivors. It's a Walter Matthau, Robin Williams comedy from the early 80s. Michael Ritchie directed it. Michael Leeson wrote it. Kind of a bomb when it came out. Everyone was, Robin Williams didn't get into his groove till Good Morning Vietnam. Now it seems more prescient than ever, dealing with people that are dealing with crime and how they react. You have Walter Matthau, who takes it in stride, and then you have Robin Williams, who overacts and joins a militia group. It's really, really insightful. Jerry Reed is hilarious in it. He plays a guy that robs a diner that Walter Matthau and Robin Williams are in. For some reason, he pretends to be an African-American guy, which I'm sure in 1983 was fine, but now it's a little troublesome.
Well, he does talk about it in the film, remember?
Yeah, and he says, we blame everything on African-American people, why not a robbery? So it's very prescient, again. Robin Williams, you always feel like he's handcuffed, especially in movies like World According to Garp and stuff like this. But this is the only movie where he's handcuffed where it's like, oh, there's a reason why. It's like a really great performance. Michael Ritchie is the most stylized Michael Ritchie movie besides The Bad News Bears, which was all handheld. Complete disaster movie. It's all about fear and how the world's unsafe. I know there were some trouble parts where the daughter was watching a porn tape, and I know. But I love it. I know it only gets better over time.
Can I just say thank you for choosing this film? I'd seen it years after it came out on VHS, and I thought, I liked it. I loved movies with snow and guns back then.
Yeah.
But rewatching it because you chose it, I love it. It is wonderful. The script is sharp. There's a billion great lines. That scene when he hits Reed on the head when he's in the house and he falls down the stairs, and then he goes to tell them exactly what he just did. He's like, I was about to hit you, and then I did this. It's hilarious. It's so good. Everyone is great. The daughter, who it looks like she hasn't done a whole lot since then, she was amazing, holding her own with Robin Williams and Walter Matthau. It's a wonderful film and very timely, like you said.
Yeah.
It should be remade.
I'm a massive Matthau fan, and that's got to be bottom. I mean, that's sorry, a little low on the Matthau scale, I'd say. I also love Jerry Reed. Not that I'd rather watch Smokey and the Bandit 3, but I love Jerry. I mean, this is Jerry Reed, by the way. This is when you're hot, you're hot.
I know, when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not.
Yeah, Jerry Reed. He was a great. Check out Jerry Reed. He was a good old Georgia country boy, I think, and just of the Burt Reynolds era ilk, and just a good time having fun kind of guy. He was in Waterboy too, right?
Yeah, that was his last big thing.
Jerry Reed. Yeah, a lot of people don't remember him. He was great.
Terrific. I love it.
He was awesome.
Robin Williams has that winter coat on with the big fuzzies around. He's like, I feel like a gynecologist for a grizzly bear. There's just so many lines. It's one of the best Robin Williams films. I'm sorry, Joe, you should talk.
I'm listening. I'm not too familiar with this flick, so please continue.
Watch
Yeah.
it.
I have to watch it. Yeah. Okay. I like Walter Matthau. That's for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. If there's one thing.
Okay, Jeff, what's your movie?
My movie is Masquerade. So, in this 1988 film directed by Bob Swaim, it's a thriller centered on Tim Rob Lowe, a young yacht captain who becomes entangled in a dangerous scheme involving a wealthy heiress, Olivia, portrayed by Meg Tilly. Following the death of her mother, Olivia returns to her family's estate, where she is surrounded by very deceitful individuals. The film explores themes of greed, love, and betrayal as Tim and Olivia navigate a web of moral complexities and hidden motives. So this film does have its issues, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of really cool things about it. I thought it was quite a good flick. The imagery is beautiful throughout the whole thing. And it's a pretty compelling story. What I like most about it is the fact that good does triumph over evil. And we have like all of these horrible, awful characters who are just so greedy and they just lie. And then you have Meg Tilly, who is like the purest, most sweet, and she's beautiful. I mean, some might even say that she's stupid because all of these people are lying around her and she doesn't get it. She completely does not get it. And you got Kim Cattrall in it, and she doesn't have really great chemistry with Rob Lowe, but that also paves the way for him having great chemistry with Meg Tilly. So everybody's very deceitful, and he was planning on deceiving her, and he was deceiving her, but because she is so pure and lovely and caring and kind and whatnot, he, despite him being so greedy, falls in love with her. But you have a lot of all these people that are lying, and what I didn't get or I didn't appreciate, and this will be a spoiler, the Doug Savant character, that came up out of the blue. Apparently, he was deceiving her either, and I feel like when you have a twist, it's important to make sure that the audience can look back and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I see now how that happened. This didn't give me that. Like I was caught off guard, and I wouldn't have been upset if they had set the groundwork for me to be like, oh yeah, of course. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when they give those twists, like I'm supposed to be able to look back and be like, I see, now I get it. I didn't get that. It was almost like they decided like, let's change his character and make him like this at the end without setting it up effectively. That was my only big issue. There's also some very weird homoerotic subtext that I don't remember from last time that I saw. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? Like, unless they were trying to insinuate something, I think that the director should be like, cut, what are you guys doing here? You know, so I felt that was strange, and I wouldn't have minded it if there was something behind it, like if they were actually trying to intimate something, but that didn't seem to be clear. So that was a little strange, but all around, I thought it was a very interesting flick and beautifully shot.
And good soundtrack too. It was very like nice, epic-y 80s. It was a nice polished film, and it was written by Dick Wolf. So it feels very much like an episode of SVU or something.
Yeah. Drawn out. Yeah. Apparently, Rob Lowe said in an interview that after this movie, Dick Wolf was like, I'm freaking done with movies. And then he went into TV. So after this flick bombed was what got Dick Wolf involved in television. So
when was School Ties, though? What didn't he do?
Did he do School Ties?
Did he write that?
Did he write it?
Somebody
find out.
Yeah, let's see.
I thought Dick Wolf was. I thought that was in development hell forever, and
That was a decent movie, School Ties.
Yeah,
This
it
wasn't
was.
a bad movie.
I don't. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I'm just gonna kind of put out a spoiler.
No, Dick
Yeah,
Wolf.
Dick
Yeah.
Wolf did School Ties.
Yep.
He wrote the screenplay. Yes, very good. Yeah.
But he probably did it before. What year was Masquerade? Sorry,
88, I think.
So he wrote this before then. So it's not like. But you're right about TV because I knew because Bill and we knew somebody who was it Dick Wolf's company. And I think it was like he just found making movies a real waste of his time because it was like 11 years, 12 years of developing something to hopefully get it made. Why not have eight of the same show on, with new scripts every week? Hey, I guess Dick was right. But
that worked out well for him.
It worked out well for him as righty, and it certainly did. Did you guys see Masquerade? Do you remember it if you saw it a long time ago?
Well, Ian, what were you about to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know if I actually saw this back in the day, but I did, watch it for this. And I realized watching it, it's not Tequila Sunrise.
Tequila Sunrise is unwatchable, dude.
No, this wasn't that bad. It's better than your last steamy thriller you chose last week.
You thought it was better than The Bedroom Window, but in both The Bedroom Window and this, you got the main character who's sleeping with his boss's
showing
wife.
their butt in the first 10 minutes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So strange. They're
and he gets killed by a rat. He's get blown up by a rat. Spoiler alert.
He does get blown up by a rat, and that was but it wasn't it wonderful that she's so pure and sweet and kind, and she escapes death. I love that. It's so clear that like good triumphs over evil. Really loud, really proud theme they're announcing there, which I loved because she was just so sweet. Maybe I think she's a foil for these horrible people. What gets me about the film is that they want all of this money because apparently she has so much money that it becomes a prison of their own. And Doug Savant does have a nice character line in that he goes, "Lock me up," because he wants to be in that prison of wealth. But they're doing everything they can to get all of her money. They can't hire a hitman to kill her. They have to do it themselves and get their hands dirty. That doesn't make sense. If these people are that ambitious and that greedy, they should be able to afford, this is the 80s, $20K to kill somebody. Why are they doing it? Makes no sense. And why are they having to blow up a boat in order to kill her? Like, just hire a hit, for Christ's sake.
You like this movie, right?
I do, yeah. That was just the only thing, one of the only things that bothered me about it, but I stand behind it. I think it's
that and Chevy Chase wasn't in it. I mean,
yeah, thank God. Yeah, that can you imagine if Chevy Chase was playing the Rob Lowe character? That would have been really fun.
I think it's this writing. Best line of the movie. Daddy's right about champagne makes girls dance and drop their pants.
Wow.
Brilliant.
I'm putting that on a shirt, man.
I was just about to say that.
I'm going to go to Venice Beach and put that on and sell that.
I got it on my red hat.
Yeah.
I like one of her sweetest moments because you need sweetness because everybody's just so horrible. Daddy would have really liked you because her daddy was dead, or I sleep like a baby when I'm with you. She has all these lines. It's almost like she's such a foil for these horrible people around her. And she's just beautiful. And then I've actually seen her recently after this flick. I checked her out on YouTube. She is actually that pure and sweet and nice.
I've seen her in person in 1998, and she was one of the nicest people on the planet and the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in Los Angeles.
Wow. She's beautiful. I found out, she looked so beautiful in this. I found out that in her YouTube, she was asked a question about like how she and Rob Lowe got along, and they were in different stages. She already had kids when she was doing this flick, and you should look at her body. So young. She looks amazing. Like you would never have thought that body had kids. She was.
You said that. I didn't say that.
I'm married. I was just looking at her eyes.
Yeah, I didn't say that. Joe said that.
Jeff said it.
She was also very young at the time. Right. I think she was in her 20s. But she was just she's lovely. She has her own show now on YouTube. I don't know how often she does it, but it's tea time. It's very, very pure and she's just lovely. She's just great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Wow. Well, we know what movies we're going to see now, right? We have to, maybe if we haven't seen it already, see Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Absolutely.
And, Jurassic Park. Of course, not Jurassic. No, that's not Jurassic.
Lost World.
That's a different dinosaur.
That's a different dinosaur. Jurassic Park. This, and of course, especially Masquerade, because Meg Tilly's lovely, and Rob Lowe is absolutely beautiful, and Kim Cattrall's in it, and who else is? I think that's pretty much. Oh, Doug.
The Melrose Place guy's good.
Who? No, yeah. Well, that thing is that with these like gay things at the end that came out of nowhere, it really actually paved the path for him on Melrose Place. I wonder if that's how he got cast in Melrose Place, because he was the sole gay character on that, very likable character. So maybe it came after Masquerade. Who knows?
By the way, I just saw on the poster you put up that John Barry did the music.
Oh yeah,
he did.
Gotta be
the score was
has to be
really
a-
good. Yeah, it was very well done. Yeah, very well done score.
Good.
And yeah, the cinematography is lovely. It takes place in the Hamptons, so yeah, I would check that out.
It's not
Awesome.
Beautiful. Actually, Memoirs of Invisible Man takes place a bit in the Hamptons.
Does it really?
Oh, remember the beach house?
You're right. Yeah.
It's New York.
Awesome.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, everybody at home knows what movies they have to watch now, and we'll talk further about these films across our social media. So thanks everybody for watching this episode of the Ejectables, and thank you, Jeff, for coming on and being our guest tonight.
Thank you, Jeff.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
We'll do it again for sure.
I hope so. With Leonard Part 6. Yes?
No, indefensible.
I'm kidding. Let's just wrap, cut. Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank